Pisces, you're up with the first Zodiac live stream. We got a new view here. I like the two-tone. It's literally the same. It's like a weird mirror. I don't know. We're just trying new stuff. This way I figure you can see the whole thing. We are going to pull some cards, of course. But mainly we got the astrology we'll start with, so we'll just go with that. To begin with, I gotta realize which camera I'm looking into. It's that one. It's gonna be a good month, Pisces. There's the, I review each sign before I do these. Let me just bold that. And I went through Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Sagittarius so far, and it seems there's themes emerging. Can I turn this? Does that make sense? Oh, and then I'm off. Then it's weird. Now it won't get off me. All right, whatever. We'll pull the card so that at least it doesn't look so weird. Shit, that one came out before. Yeah, that makes sense. Very cool. Good stuff for you, Pisces. So basically, you got a big month, right? There's a lot of astrologicals. I would say actually less astrological goings-ons than last month and the month before that, if I remember correctly. But still some pretty profound and big stuff. There is a lunar eclipse and full moon in Taurus. Taurus, right, we're typically thinking about things related to the physical world, external reality, what you're viewing out there. Also things that more importantly make you feel like you're in physical space, and that kind of reaffirm that being a realm in which you exist, which is of many, but that one in particular. So you have a month of positive change and opportunity coming your way. Your professional life, when I say professional life, like this is what you do with your life in terms of doing stuff, right? This doesn't have to be necessarily a career. It doesn't have to be even your primary source of income, or even what you're spending the most time on. That's not part of what this is about, but it is about kind of, your ability to focus on something kind of concrete as an objective and make that your work, right? You don't always have to get compensated for it. But this is taking center stage in October for you. This is kind of where the pivot is going in terms of that energy. So getting clear and focused on that is a wise decision. You're likely to experience also a surge of motivation and enthusiasm. So you can pursue whatever you're trying to pursue with like a renewed sense of kind of energy, vigor, and just like, oh, I can do this. Like it's not going to be something that's, a struggle, right? Maybe if energy levels have been low, you'll find kind of a restoration and like more ability to do that. Okay, keep an eye out also for new opportunities. This is not just related to the realm of work, but it also has a lot to do with kind of, just anything coming your way that you could keep your eyes open for and be like, all right, this is something that, might be worth paying a little bit of attention to. Just be aware of that. You're kind of like in an auspicious time for new things kind of evolving or bubbling up, seemingly out of nowhere at times as well. Likewise, if you've been contemplating kind of a shift in terms of what it is you're doing, that's also not a bad time to really kind of investigate that at the very least. You don't have to jump ship. You're not going to be reckless. But, looking at other ways of doing things professionally in terms of what you're doing on a regular basis also is kind of falling under a nice kind of harmonious aspect. Just in terms of your spending and stuff like that, if money worries have been anywhere around your consciousness, recognize that like your reaffirmation of thinking that you have those issues perpetuates the issues, number one. Number two, like it's okay to recognize when there are times to be prudent and when there are times to kind of just go nuts, right? This would be one of those months where you're just kind of aware of what you're doing. You don't have to kind of change any patterns or habits necessarily. It's just be like, okay, can I do this differently? Does it make more sense? Money and abundance are resources. So this means that ultimately it's just how you manage them. It doesn't mean there's one proper way to do it, especially not for everyone. That wouldn't make sense. So just be kind of open to watching how you're doing things, right? So, but stay grounded, most importantly. And you know, there's some good opportunities that are going to come your way. Again, this is like what you're doing with your days too. This isn't like a small, it's all relative, but like this is like what you really want to wake up and do, right? Getting clear about what that is and focusing on that is going to be an important part of October for you. Okay, so for relationship stuff, if you're single, again, all of these things kind of point to the good opportunities for meeting new people. This is someone who you probably will feel like understands you and connects with you on a deep level. Likewise, if you're in a committed relationship, this is an excellent time for deepening and strengthening your emotional bonds and connections with a partner. So you can be on the lookout for that. Energy is present, right? So that's why, like, you can be like, well, you know, this doesn't apply to me. I'm single. This doesn't apply to me. I'm in a relationship. It does. It's the energy that's coming through that is there to kind of experience, and that can be experienced again in a multitude of ways. So just be on the lookout for like that deeper emotional connection, not short kind of like or half-assed energies. So like planning romantic type stuff to do is probably not the worst idea for you, Pisces. Oh, Pisces. Effective communication will also be essential during this period. So make sure you're sharing your thoughts and feelings. Pisces, you don't always do that. You definitely do it. Everybody knows a Pisces can share some feelings, but sometimes that's like guarded and held onto rather than being expressed, right? Rather than being kind of clearly communicated in a way that someone else could understand. So just take some time to kind of actually express those thoughts. That might really come in handy in terms of dealing with situations that might be complex or require some of that kind of emotional resonance and sharing. So just be aware of potential misunderstandings or conflicts during the latter half of the month when Mercury enters Scorpio. So a lot of like water to water action with Scorpio and Pisces. And you just want to be aware that like if Mercury is getting weird in Scorpio, which is transformation, kind of turning over of things, deep dives, it can be shadow work. If that comes in, you know, just be aware that like there could be kind of opportunities to view situations that maybe would have led to misunderstandings or arguments or disagreements. There's a way to look at that to process it kind of emotionally where it doesn't have to go through that process. So just be aware of that, right? Again, maintain patience and empathy when dealing with sensitive issues. You know how to feel stuff. So just kind of maintain that patience when you're dealing with them. And overall your health, like you should be in pretty good shape in October. Again, those energy levels should be boosted. It's kind of not a weird time for that to happen, but if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, things tend to go into fall mode, right, in October. So, you know, leaves start dying, you know, they change color. It's beautiful, of course, but they also just kind of things are on the downturn, but you're actually getting an upswing of energy during this period. So, you know, if this is your favorite time of year, then you're in for a treat because you're going to have a lot of energy to appreciate it. Also, just importantly, just take short breaks from your schedule to just find that kind of work-life balance. It's really about relaxing and unwinding sometimes for you Pisces, and just make sure you're achieving that, like I said, harmonious balance between work and personal life. And work, again, is like, think about it something hopefully you get excited about. Listen, the goal, if your conception of reality is, you know, doing something you fundamentally dislike for money or for reasons that kind of limit what you would really like to be doing, that's not a good exchange. I'm not saying you don't have to do stuff sometimes that you maybe don't want to do. You might have to, but like, don't let it be so far misaligned with what it is that you want to be doing that it can't even be integrated into that. That's like, don't do that. That's like a purposeful kind of situation you're creating for yourself. We got the sun, right, going into Scorpio. So just, again, be aware. This is like introspective, really, we got Libra and Scorpio energy, actually. So really, it's like, just be aware that there's this kind of ability to drift off and be idealistic, but then you kind of do go through that process of reviewing. And like, again, it's death transformation. Scorpio is intense, ruled by Pluto, right? It's just it's an intense sign. It's a cool sign. It represents, the phoenix usually is represented with it. There's a lot of different, there's an eagle, there's the scorpion, there's the lobster. There's a lot of cool stuff that can happen with Scorpio, but it is a very transformative process that you're going to be going through when later in the month that happens. And then Libra is just kind of like blasting you off into like, yes, themes of greater kind of justice and importance, but also the energy of just like, getting into that dreamy air-like quality of Libra. So Venus ruling it and such. So there's a lot of auspicious energies going on for you in October. Ultimately, I would say just kind of embrace creativity and then cultivate as much compassion for yourself and others as you can. And you should be in pretty good shape. It is not feeling like a tremendously difficult month. Like I said, just be aware that you are expressing yourself and trying to like truly understand people on a, relatively deep enough level that you really hear and feel what they're saying. And you should be able to avoid most interpersonal stuff. Oops, that one came out. Yeah, there's that Libra energy too, right? The Six of Cups there. Not Six of Cups. Yeah, it is the Six of Cups. Huh. I don't know why I thought it wasn't. Anyway, Six of Cups, again, feeding your emotional and your kind of like ability to express yourself sides are both important during this month. That's kind of like the Scorpio Libra energy, the blue and the yellow, and equal attention being paid. I won't say equal. I'll say like balanced or in harmony energy, paying attention to both of those aspects of the self is probably the overall message for that. When it pops out, you pull it. Everybody knows that tarot rule. Let's go through these cards, right? We have the Ten of Cups here reversed, surprisingly. Doesn't mean bad, though. Six of Swords reversed, and then the Knight of Cups. And that feels very appropriate. So 10 of Cups reversed, right? 10 of Cups, obviously, like you want to see it upright as much as you can. It's one of the best cards. This view is pretty good. I feel like I can at least navigate it with my eyes a little bit better. 10 of Cups you want to see upright. Now listen, does reversed mean that it's discontent, it's disharmony? No, it doesn't. It means it's something that you may not feel at present, but is a kind of desired aspect. We could also look at these as past, present, future. In this particular reading, I think that makes quite a bit of sense. A lot. Where you've kind of felt out maybe misaligned with what it is that you're doing. Especially, again, when I say professionally, when I say career, it is where you're putting your attention to, right? That is what you are going to find yourself doing. So this isn't to say that if you have a job and you just don't like that job, the whole point is to like not do that. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is that you do ask yourself what it is you feel like you should be doing, right? This doesn't even have to be, again, like what you do for money. Maybe you work a 9 to 5. Maybe you work some other non-traditional way that pays the bills, but then you have creative projects or some project that you're working on professionally. Like as a professional, you really put time and effort into this. This is like a really big opportunity to kind of get into that. But if you're not doing that, if you're kind of pushing that to the side and just only focusing on resources or some aspect of maintaining some semblance of working within a system to, pay bills and like let's be clear. Depending on your financial social strata, I don't think it matters actually where it is. This year has been wonkadoo in terms of like the flow of money. You will learn over periods of time that there are years where the money that comes from like wherever it comes from flows a little bit more. And this is irrespective of like macro conditions. This isn't like, the economy's not good or inflation's high or, the war in Ukraine and all of these things. Sure, whatever. I understand that if you delve into it, you can find many reasons why that's the case. That's not what I'm talking about. It's your ability to kind of recognize the ebb and flow of that energetic kind of resonance with abundance and lack. Do not view lack as a failure. That's not really what its intended cause is. It, again, is to provide contrast 4 times of abundance. If it was abundant all the time, do you know how long it would take people to get sick of abundance? Very quickly. I give like the first person probably like checks out after like day 2. They're like, nah, this is too much. You know, those of us who are comfortable living in abundance could probably take a little bit more time than that. But ultimately it does, because it becomes static in a lot of ways. And that's not really what we're looking for as an experience. If anything, I don't know why one would incarnate if they wanted a static appearance. I guess you could be like a rock or some shit that never gets touched or moved or seen or something, but not really worried about that. Anyway, back to the 10 of Cups. You should basically just recognize that this is some potential misalignment for feeling that feeling of satisfaction, of fulfillment, which is the 10 of Cups is typically associated with. Let's talk about the present. The 6 of Swords. The swords is in air sign, so we're thinking of like kind of intellect, decision making, logic, structures, analysis, which kind of have sometimes like a antiseptic quality to them. Like when we think about that realm of being, like intelligence, being smart, mental stuff, like there's like almost like it's not pejorative, but it's like something that kind of is like, it's not like the real stuff. It's not like the emotion. It's not like the spirituality. And that's not true at all. Air is incredibly important. It is what makes things move. It changes things. It propels things in many different directions and is an incredibly powerful force. So when we see ourselves going through a swords-like transition, which is what the 6 of Swords is all about, it's just like, you got to embrace it. You know that you are moving from one side of the riverbank to the other side of the riverbank. And is it always a pleasant experience? Maybe not, but nevertheless, it is a self-propelled. You are using and imploring the wind, putting your sails up and letting the wind move you in a certain direction to get you where you're going. It's not always accompanied by a sense of loss, and the upside down here, the reversal, doesn't mean that a transition is going backwards. It means that this is something that's probably nearing its completion, right? So when we're looking at the month of October for you, Pisces, this transition that you are going through sounded a certain way. This transition that you're going through is probably going to be not wrapping up. We're always in an ever permanent state of change, but it's going to be kind of showing and revealing itself part of the transition, right? It's part of the new thing that's happening is likely you're going to get to the place where you were trying to go to and kind of see how that then unfolds into other aspects of transition. But it's hard to deny that 2023 was like a very like whoa year. It was just like one of those years that kind of, I don't want to say gets lost, like no year truly gets lost, but looking back on like, a couple of decades, you can see that like some years are like, oh yeah, that was a weird one, that like something crazy happened that year. And sometimes the other ones just kind of fade into obscurity. This is not to shit on 2023 in any way. I'm sure a lot of positive and powerful experiences like happened to everyone. But in terms of like, it was a lot of up and down for people. It wasn't just like a rocket ship. And so just, be aware of that when it comes to looking at transitional periods, that these two, just like the days, the weeks, the months, the years, like even your minute to minute or hour to hour experience, they have oscillations. What I'm trying to say is recognize that those oscillations are created by your kind of natural tendency to either be aware of things within your field of consciousness, not even the external world, just be aware of things in your field of consciousness, and then be aware that that is somehow going to inevitably be outputted at some point into this experience, right? We're like painting the future, what we think we experience as the future, which is really not actually ever happening. If you think about it, you live in the now. You can imagine the future, you can remember the past, but your experience, your consciousness is condensed to this point in reality as you move through these various things. Anyway, this is all to say, when we get to the Knight of Cups, this is like where the real power is, okay? This is like your ability to truly understand that before you take a step, before you cross a bridge, before you ford a stream, which is literally what's happening with the Knight of Cups, you take an emotional beat. You check in with your emotions. You make sure, and this is kind of nice that Scorpio falls in the latter half of the month, because you're going to be in an introspective state of mind, and you'll be able to like truly process things that are coming through you emotionally, the good and the bad, the light and the dark. Just like let that shit wash over you. Release what you need to release. That's a huge important part of Scorpionic energy, is that release is like a very like key core component of rejuvenation, just resuscitation, just like coming back to life. Thinking of the phoenix, like the scorpion depiction of the phoenix. So there's that energy is like a key kind of point for you to understand that like your emotional state, your feelings are something that you can both summon and pay attention to as reliable messengers of information. I don't know if that's the right word, like vibratory frequency, right? Your emotions are going to let you feel certain things in a certain way that is telling you what's really going on, like how you actually feel about something. You can't fake that. You know what I mean? You can't trick yourself out of it. You can go along with it. You can cope with it. You can try to deny it. You can do whatever you want, or you can just like enjoy it. You can love it. It depends what the feeling is, right? Sometimes we don't want to deal with them. Sometimes we do. But if you really take an honest moment to kind of look into what those feelings, where they're coming from, why you're feeling them, are they rooted in substance? Is this something that you can, work with in some substantial way, or is it just a feeling of like if it's something bad, like you got to look at that. You got to be like, well, why do I feel like this? Is this true? Everything I know about reality and my ability to kind of create this stuff, is this fear true? Because if it's a fear-based belief, if it's a feeling that's based in fear, that's a reliable messenger telling you something about something. And that hopefully your conclusion you come to is like, okay, this is like any other emotion. It's not necessarily a true thing. It's like a feedback response of the way you want to navigate this reality. So if those things are dominating you, it's a really kind of good month to look at those things and be like, all right, I don't think I need to play that game anymore, if that's your choice. And you can kind of move through it in a very functional and healthy and processing and letting it go type of energy. And you're really going to make a lot of advancements in that realm. That's why I say, like, I don't find it like hard to believe that your career, what you're doing is going to be more aligned with what you feel like doing. Right. And that should be an important part of living. I know it can be hard to imagine sometimes, or just like believe sometimes that, it could be different than the way it's been. It's a lot of letting go of that type of energy, right? Okay. Yeah. So again, Knight of Cups here is just like, you get the time to process that. You get the time to kind of go through those things before making any leaps in kind of consciousness or decision making or choice taking or whatever it is. So you really want to pause before making any kind of complex decision or any like major life choice. But this is not because you have to do that every time. It's so you can understand that, it's a very positive way of dealing with things. Okay. It's how you process stuff, essentially. Alrighty. Let's get to the other cards. That makes sense. The paradox card. Pisces, you always got there's always a depth there. I'll say that about Pisces. We got soul work. And, God, super intense. The void. Why you got to go so deep with it, Pisces? Because your last sign of the zodiac is like the final step. The 12-step program. You got all these things. Okay, this is feels about right. Here's what I will say. I think you're going to in reality, whatever you want to call this place, your projection of it, the physical stuff you encounter, I think you're going to see a tremendous amount of progress. It feels like that is kind of an inevitable outcome. Second half of the month, Scorpionic aspect of the month, you're going deep with it. That's all I'll say. You're going super deep with it, right? So you have paradox, which is, Try to understand that one. Try to have a fun time also trying to explain paradox. Basically, you have something that is true, and then you have something else that is true. But those things, can they coexist if they cancel each other out? That's a paradox, right? And these are themes that I think Pisces in particular are well suited for, because it is the 12th house. It's the house of the kind of destruction of the self. It is the dying of the self in a lot of way. It's called the house of self-undoing. And it's not the self in the sense of like the eternal soul of the self. It's like the identity self gets deconstructed in that phase. So a lot of paradoxical issues come up with this. How can this be true? How can that be true? What up, Platinum? Welcome to the chat. I am doing readings now. These are readings for patrons for their signs. But yes, I do readings as well. I jump on sometimes and just do those free for all, but this is for October 2023 for Pisces. Then also Pisces, you have soul work. This is what it comes down to. Your ability to process and feel and allow things to happen is kind of what is going to be determining and shaping what you experience out there. Okay. The void is where it comes from. That's that nothingness place. That's where things don't exist, especially dual things, right? We live in a world of dualism, right? There's polarities. There's light, there's dark, there's good, there's bad, there's black, there's white. There's these very clear polarities. Of course, there's a spectrum in between all of them as well, and we move through these as we perceive reality. But, there's also other elements of reality that are kind of not working like that we have access to that, when you get into unity consciousness, you basically have the absence of that, is what most people would call the void. There is no other to experience. There is no polarity to experience. So you don't have the ability to kind of reference back and look at something. That's the void. It is unity nonetheless. It is not something to be feared. It is not some evil dark abyss of void that the black hole is going to consume everything and there's nothing. It is a destructive principle in some senses, but it is also the perfect thing. It is part of the one, which is the game that we are playing. Let's pull some Animal Oracle. Yeah, and if you want like readings like personals, I usually don't record those for people, but I guess we could do like something on the Patreon where we do like maybe an hour of just streaming. Not an hour, like half an hour of streaming where we just pull some cards for people who want to do it live. But I do the personals usually via Instagram. Okay. Pisces. Look at this. Here first. It's not a great view. Is this one better? There we go. Coyote spirit. Trust in divine detours. That makes a lot of sense. That's kind of where you get that contrast of what you don't want relative to what you want. I spoke about that on the recent podcast. Rabbit spirit. Now is a lucky time. It does feel like a very kind of auspicious month to do this work, Pisces, because it's just like you getting the boost. You're getting that little like turbo boost you need to get going. And that should be sustained throughout the month of October, so you can go through a lot of different things. I think the hour of readings for the Patreon would be a cool idea. Yeah, I think so too. We could do that. I mean, I like to do, these are recorded for patrons. So, of course, I can just pull cards and read for general. But if you want like personal readings from me while I'm doing these, we could set up a designated hour where patrons just do that. And I guess if there are no patrons, then I don't know, I'll do something else, because like that's the thing with these live streams. They're recorded so everyone gets to see them, but like there's time zones all over the world here. Like I recognize that at 7:30 p.m. That might not be the best time for a bunch of people. So I don't want to exclude them. So that's why I always try to do like these where they're available, record them and put them out there. But if people specifically want to get that done and you're a patron, I will absolutely offer it. There's nothing wrong with that. Finally, Peacock spirit, let it shine. And this is where that going back to expressing yourself is such a huge part of this month, October coming up. coming up. You have the old readings for September, or the current readings, I should say. So just really remember that, like, this is your time to actually display how competent and awesome and cool and, like, you know your shit and you put in your time and you know what you're doing. Don't be afraid to don't hide that back. Don't hide that, right? That's really what this month is about. That energy, that kind of willingness to do that, excuse me, will go a long way in the month of October. A long way. All right, cool. That is it, Pisces. These are up on YouTube, right? They are in the live section, but these recordings will come out in like 6 days, something like that. All right, I'll be back with Aquarius in a little bit, not too long.